A welcome class. This is a joint welcome actually to my two 4263 classes, section O1 and O2. The date is August 13th, 2020. Want to welcome you back to school, and I hope your summer break has been good for you and your state of mind. We all need some R&R from the daily requirements of school, lectures, quizzes, tests, pressure to learn and excel in our studies. The roller coaster COVID-19 just made the foregoing that much harder to endure. So I hope you are recharged with energy and enthusiasm for learning the law. Contrary to popular belief, understanding the law is not difficult. My goal is to introduce you to legal concepts that will prepare you for the possible career in international business law. You will earn a variety. Let me backtrack it. Not business law, but to prepare you for a possible career in international business. And I'm going to give you the background in the law in order to accomplish that. You will learn a variety of new terms foreign to your normal conversational vocabulary, and very different from anything in your other classes at Cal Poly. It's like learning a new language, kind of. I will try my best to be informative and helpful to you in your quest to learn the law. I'm also an ardent believer that you can learn and have fun doing so. So I like to joke around a little bit. Feel free to do that. Chill out, relax, and I'll get you to where you need to be. Let's start with the class description. Well, first of all, I'm Ed Perez. I'll have the pleasure of teaching you folks all about business law, international business law, my personal experiences and ventures in international business law. Where relevant, I'll introduce them to you, and we'll have some fun. But anyway, class description, let's start there. This class will be primarily synchronous, but it will have an asynchronous component. You're watching the asynchronous component. The synchronous means that there are live online class sessions. This will permit discussion, Q&A, and relevant spontaneous feedback. It is the best method for teaching online courses. At least that's my view on it. Asynchronous means the session will not include a live online class discussion, just a straight video like this one. For example, I would prepare videos with the YouTube platform for students to review at their leisure. And I like that. I mean, I don't think you need to be always present in a synchronous environment. I give you the asynchronous video of each chapter. It gives you time to think about it, study it at your own time. There'll be a lot of other pressures on you from other classes, and you may have to work. You may be married and have children or something like that. But this gives you the flexibility to just do it at your leisure. And then prepare your questions. The video will not be a complete presentation of the course material. Instead, it will highlight key points out of the chapter for further amplification in the synchronous session. It will provide you the time to study, think about, and try to understand the subject matter on your own. That's the best way to learn, and we clarify it with Q&A. And then if you do still have questions, I'll be always available to answer them. So I'm never going to leave you guys lost. You are important to me. I love teaching. Let's see. The substance of the video and class assignments will be discussed at the synchronous class session, where I will entertain questions and amplify an explanation of the video and other course material. Please send me any questions you have after visiting the video here at least 3 days in advance of the live online class sessions, so that I have ample time to answer all the questions you may have. The synchronous sessions will be scheduled at the class time posted on Bronco Direct for this class, which for section 02 is Friday, 1 to 3:45 p.m. And for class 03, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 10 a.m. in the morning to 11:30 a.m. in the morning, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Please be sure to keep the time frame open each week as if you were attending face-to-face class instruction. Um, Now, on the synchronous classes, I will schedule them for you. They're not scheduled yet. And the reason why they're not scheduled yet is that, for instance, the first chapter that we're going to discuss in class is chapter 8. And it is an important class, and it's going to take, usually it takes me 2 class sessions when we're face-to-face instruction. And so we don't need asynchronous each week. I don't think we do. I'm going to try it first. We'll do the whole chapter over a 2-week period, and then have the synchronous class session the following week, which will be the 3rd week. So just keep it in touch through Blackboard, and/or I like to do Bronco Direct, by the way, for announcements. I mean, it's easier. I think it's quicker, and it gets to you guys right away. So look on your email, Bronco Direct. I'll be getting you most of the attendance, not attendance, but the um, events that need attention through Bronco Direct. I think you'll find the combination of the asynchronous and synchronous methods as interesting and a good way to learn. Let's turn to the syllabus first. Hopefully you've already read it. If you haven't, please do. Carefully, and read it carefully so you don't have any negative surprises. I have to tell you folks, I've been teaching now for, well, going over 30 years, probably close to 35. And it amazes me that, we go over this syllabus in class, and inevitably, at the end of the class term, there's a lot of misunderstandings, grading, etc., class participation. So go over the syllabus thoroughly. Have your questions for me. And at the first synchronous session, we're going to go over that syllabus, and I will answer all your questions, okay? So this video, or the videos actually in general, will just highlight the key points of the syllabus for discussion in the synchronous class. They are as follows. Here we go. Class requirements. Students must read all assignments. No surprise. Come on, read all the assignments. It's the least you can do. You're a student here. You want to learn. And so that, to me, is a requirement, and you have to do it. Be prepared to discuss every topic and complete any additional assignments that I make from time to time. And those from time to time things, well, when the time comes, I'll tell you about it. But right now, I don't have anything planned, definitely. It really depends on how well you're doing. If you're understanding the material, why give you additional assignments? If you're not understanding the material, you may need other assignments. So the moral of the story is be prepared and understand the assignments, and then we won't do any extra assignments that I might have in mind. The following is the most important for you guys. If you diligently keep up with the assignments, I assure you the course will not be too difficult, honestly. If you fall behind in the assignments, the reading, and my videos, you will quickly become confused and stressed out. That will hinder your performance and your understanding of the subject matter. This is probably the single most important reason why students do poorly in my classes. I will always, get this turned over here, always be available for answering your questions if the relevant synchronous session does not answer them for you. Now, class participation, this is important. You have the opportunity to earn up to 10% as an extra credit onto your final grade. That can be very significant. You will receive 2% just for attendance at the synchronous sessions. I'll have a roll call there. I'll see who's there. And more extra credit depending on your degree of participation. So if you're prepared and you're participate a lot, you contribute to the class understanding of things, you ask me questions, I ask you questions, we get that dialogue going back and forth, you'll get more than 2%. Now, after teaching for over 30 years, I gotta tell you, you have to have class participation. If I just lecture to you folks, like on a video, that's why we can't have just asynchronous, we gotta have the synchronous part of it. Then you guys are not gonna really latch onto the subject matter and you're gonna get bored and you're gonna just, it won't be good for you. I have learned over the years, it's gotta be a give and take both back and forth. And challenge me on what I say. I mean, I'm not always right. Sometimes I get things confused. Sometimes I misspeak, and I misspeak. You got to correct me. Raise your hand. You can't do it here. You have a little button here. You got to do it on the synchronous session, and that'll keep the class interesting. Okay, so please study the information in the syllabus regarding class participation carefully. Grades. I know you don't care about grades. Oh, yes, you do. Your grades will depend on a midterm worth approximately 30% of your grade, and a final exam worth approximately 50% of your grade. Unannounced quizzes will be given and will be worth approximately 20% of your grade. Uh, and by the way, these are no makeups, so it means you got to be present at the synchronous sessions, don't you? Or you find out from a friend, but I think it's best to be there. Once the foregoing test components are added together, you add up midterm grade, total points now. We don't do it on percentage, total points. Total points from the midterm, total points from the final, and any quizzes, you're going to add up and get a total points number. That number is then plotted on a course curve. But before you do the course curve, I multiply your total points by whatever class participation I give you. Maybe I give you 6%. So if you have 150 points total, and I give you 6%, that's going to be what, 9 points added onto your score. That could be significant. Hope my math is okay. I never was good at math. 150 times 6, 30, 90, not 90 points, 9 points. Okay, I think I'm right. And so, and then that figure will be plotted on the class curve. You know what a class curve is? It's got nothing to do with percentages. It's total points, and I get a curve, and I cut it off at certain spots for A's, B's, C's, and D's. Now, I do this very carefully for you now, and I want you to think about it because I always get questions at the end of the semester. Professor, I was here in class, I got all the time, and only got 2%, or you didn't attend the classes, and you got 0%, because you get 0 if you don't put 10. And then they say the total points are 60% or whatever it is. And I don't know how students come up with a percentage point because there's no maximum, you see. So please understand that concept. Now, here's another important thing, I think. Grading is a necessary component of teaching, folks. How else can I measure whether you're understanding the material? Look, I love teaching with all my heart, but I hate grading. Someone is always disappointed. Work with me to minimize the number of students who get disappointed with their grades. In other words, you individually work with me and I'll help you get there so you're not going to be disappointed. And I would like that number to be a big Z, capital Z-E-R-O, 0. If I get a 0, I'm going to be one happy camper. And believe me, although not too often, I've had classes where I've had nothing lower than a C. And it's a pleasure. Everyone gets something more than a C. There's no failures and no D's. And that's what I want to accomplish with you guys. And so let's do it. Okay, now on to the course schedule. I selected chapters 1 through 4. 7, 8, 9, 12 through 14 for this course. An introductory course is more like getting you familiar with the terms and the doctrines and stuff like that. Very little practice, although we do have a chapter. Chapter 4 is more geared towards the practice, only one chapter. Most of them are geared towards having you understand international business concepts, international business law, and so you understand the mechanism for a successful career in international business. Okay, so the chapters are enumerated are the ones I selected, and I think they're good chapters. Um, they will introduce you to key issues, and depending on how fast we proceed, I may add a chapter or two at the end of the semester. You see, there's a couple weeks back there says to be announced, so we may be doing uh, another chapter or two, or I will probably have a group project for you guys to do. I will announce it at a later date, explain it to you, and generally what it is. There are questions and answers at the end of each chapter. I will assign those questions to groups. The groups will include 4 to 5 students, depending on the size of the class roll. And then you will work together. You'll do a little research, and I'll show you how to do that on Westlaw. You gotta do a little legal research, and you gotta prepare a PowerPoint presentation. Now, prior to COVID-19, we did these group presentations in class, and everyone had to have a speaking part, which I think makes it that much better. I don't know how that's going to work with the online stuff, but I think maybe we could still do it. I'm going to think that through a little bit, but at a minimum, it'll be a PowerPoint that I'll have to review and see whether you understand things by how well you did on the PowerPoint. Okay, now let's go on to the next little sheet here. Let's start with the first chapter. Chapter 8 is the chapter you're being assigned to do first. And it concerns the application of the United States law that implicates international business. I selected it for presentation first because, as you will learn, the U.S. Constitution and statutory law contain the power for the President, Congress, and the federal court system, and in some limited circumstances, states to implement international law. International law is very different from domestic law. You're going to find out. Not hard, but it's just very different. Let's see. Chapter 1 is next. It is about understanding international law and its application. International law is different than national law because it's largely voluntary. There's no global legislature to make international law, no international tribunal to interpret international law, and no international police agency to enforce international law. How about that? That's kind of tricky. You're wondering how does things get done? Well, that's the problem. Things are tough to get done internationally. Each nation is going to be taking care of their own persons, business persons, whatever. They're going to protect them, and rightly so they should. And we have to work together to get the thing done right, to make sure business flows smoothly and mutually beneficial. That's the idea. This chapter 1 discusses international legal doctrines such as customs, treaties, conventions, comity, which have developed over the years to enable international business to flourish. Okay. Chapter 2 discusses the evolution of international law, its definitions, its characteristics. You will learn how treaties are formed and enforced. Custom, commencing with the law merchant, is a major forerunner of international law. International law has developed for both criminal and business law issues. Just back up a little second here. Law merchant. That's when merchants, on their own, without anyone bugging them, decided it was important for everyone to cooperate in international business enterprises, uh, because both sides would flourish, both sides would benefit. They had their own court system. Merchants sat on a court, and we were, and if someone didn't cooperate with the court, they would be ostracized, boycotted, and so pretty much that's how things got started. Kind of interesting, but we'll go through that. The role of the United Nations and the International Court of Justice is explained, and you'll see that they don't have too much direct authority. And then the chapter ends with a short comparison of law among the major legal systems of the world, which is common law, civil law, and Muslim law. Chapter 3 concerns resolution of international disputes. How do you resolve the disputes short of war? The most common are settlements. People have a dispute, they just settle it. That's really the best thing to do. Alternative dispute resolution, arbitration, mediation, those kinds of things, and litigation ultimately. But litigation costs a lot of money. You got to travel around the world to different nations in their courts. You got to have interpreters. You got to have two lawyers, a lawyer for yourself, a lawyer that speaks the language where you're going to be litigating. You don't want to go there. The giant uh, international corporations, they have all the do, re, mi to do it. And they spend it and they fight for it. And it's important to them and they win a lot. So, but for the average business person, you don't want to do it. It costs too much money, too much anxiety. Um, so that will be discussed there. And then, by the way, these concepts I think were mentioned in FRL 2013. I've taught that class before, and international concepts came up, but not very thoroughly. I didn't like it. The textbook was really weak on it, but uh, we're going to get a good dose of international stuff here. So when you listen to the news, you see all the disputes, the tariff wars, and the sanctions being imposed, you'll understand why and how. Um, so the purpose of this chapter is to familiarize you with the important aspects of international litigation. You may logically ask the question, why should I learn this? Well, if I get in trouble, I'll just hire an attorney like anyone else. Well, that's oh, that's good up to a certain point. The point is that when you get sued, you, your staff, your witnesses will all have to work with the attorneys in order to be successful. You need to know what that commitment entails in time and money. And it's a lot of time and money and stress. Often the best business solution is settle as soon as practicable. You'll be in a much better position to do all of the foregoing once you have studied Chapter 2. Chapter 4. Now, this is more of a practice type of a chapter. It is a very thorough explanation of the formation, application of contracts for the international sale of goods. Acronym is CISG. It has many of the same requirements as the U.S. Commercial Code. It deals only with the sale of goods and excludes such things as service agreements, real estate contracts, employment contracts, consumer goods, and securities, for instance. Key contract concepts such as mutual assent, offer and acceptance, the parallel evidence rule, as applied to international sales, are contrasted with how common law, civil law countries apply them. The chapter ends with a discussion of remedies for the breach of international contract. Chapter 12 discusses imports, customs, and tariff law. It is concerned more with practice also as opposed to theory. For example, you will learn how duties on imports are calculated and harmonized among the nations to facilitate cross-border entry of goods. The international harmonized schedules by classification with foreign nations are displayed. Harmonize just means standardize. That's really what it means. Certain codes, certain terminology, certain tariff schedules are all published. People can follow them. You will learn how the rules of origin for imports are determined and enforced because, if you want a good quality silk, you want it from China. Yeah, you want a good truck, you want it from the United States. So you have to have rules of origin to make sure you're getting the right thing. Um, how the U.S. Customs administers the tariff laws and what enforcement options and penalties are imposed. Chapter 14 concerns how the North American Free Trade Agreement of 1994 among the U.S., Mexico, and Canada was conceived and why. Primarily, such trade agreements make it easier for signatories of the agreements to trade with each other. They reduce and sometimes eliminate tariffs and also include other topics such as labor law, common pollution problems. Like, we have a pollution problem with Mexico. They pour their sewage into a river, the Rio Grande, I think it is, which flows partly into the American uh, beaches, Imperial Beach, Southern California. We have fertilizers from our farms that goes into the Colorado River, and those things pour into Mexico, and they pollute Mexico. So, and then there's air pollution that goes back across our borders, because pollution knows no border. It's like COVID-19 just goes. And so these things have to be worked out, mutually beneficial. And that's what we try to do. And for most part, we do a pretty good job of doing that. Let's see. Oh, yeah. There has been much controversy over the fairness and effectiveness of NAFTA by the U.S. U.S. and the ones complained mostly, and I think rightly so. It could have been done better initially. You never know until you input the agreement and enforce it. And once you do that, you'll see that there's little things that you didn't think about. Well, uh, now NAFTA has been amended, and if you follow international law, you'll know Trump, rightfully so, complained and got some changes that are more beneficial to our country. It was entered into force, which means it becomes effective. It was entered into force July 1, 2020, so it's just brand new, and we're going to see how this one works. With some changes the U.S. requested, and now is referred to, instead of NAFTA, it's referred to as the U.S.-Mexico-Canadian Trade Agreement of 2020, acronym USMCA. We will compare and contrast the two agreements. It should be interesting for you, I think. Okay, Chapter 9 concerns the formation, purpose, and major principles of trade law. The World Trade Organization, created by the United Nations, oversees much of international trade. It sets forth policy and review practices of its member nations. It assists members with education and training in international trade law and will arbitrate trade disputes. Trade barriers such as tariffs, and then non-trade barriers, which is a little different. A tariff is a monetary uh, uh, scheme barrier. Non-tariff barriers are the following: embargoes, quotas, discriminatory licensing schemes entered into between the countries, onerous administrative import regulations, all explained how they work. Those are non-tariff barriers. In addition, the many legitimate regulations concerning imports are presented. Chapter 13 concerns export controls and sanctions. This chapter explains the purpose of export controls and the use of sanctions for violations. Today's international trade has unfortunately been seriously compromised by trade wars, and sanctions have been imposed sometimes for reasons other than trade disputes. And treaty in the deadly COVID-19 pandemic has all really hurt international trade as well as hurt domestic trade. Get rid of the COVID-19, folks. I think it's going to come soon. I'm confident they're close to a vaccine. If we are all diligent, wear our masks, have social distancing, we're going to beat this thing. And We always have. We always, the United States is resilient, and we're going to beat this thing. And things will get better. It'll take a little time, but it'll get better. This chapter will explain why the issues have created the havoc in world trade, and why the use of sanctions is an instrument for control of certain nations. Punish them with sanctions, tariffs. They don't do what you want. Punish them that way. It gets a lot done. You'll see. In conclusion, as mentioned above, the course is intended to be introductory. It will enable you to understand and recognize potential legal problems. That way, you will be in a better position to prevent and respond to a lawsuit or a violation of administrative regulation. It will teach you to understand if and when you need to obtain an attorney. Also, when relevant, I intend to share several of my personal international business ventures. Uh, I think you'll find those interesting. Finally, it will be my pleasure to ensure you successfully complete this course. Now, repeat this. It will be my pleasure to ensure you successfully complete this course. I mean it. I'll work with you on it. I want zero grades under a C, okay? You can do it if you put your mind to it, and I'm going to help you, okay? So please review the syllabus posted on Blackboard, and I look forward to seeing you in our synchronous session, whenever that is, the first one. But I'll be sending another video out of Chapter 8. And that video will be over two for over a 2 week period of time. If we get done with it sooner, then I'll know what's happening after the first session, and I'll adjust our schedule accordingly. I'll do that. But so that's it, folks. Start reading Chapter 8. If you read the chapter before the video, you're going to be so far advanced, way ahead of the game. The video should help clarify any questions that you have. And then the synchronous session should absolutely do it 100%. No further misunderstandings. If there is, that's understandable. This is new stuff. I will have telephone uh, sessions one-on-one for those who need the help. And it'll be my pleasure, honest to God. So I look forward to class. Thank you very much. And I'll be talking at you soon. Bye-bye.